7 Shocking Secrets of Jericho's Fall. You won't believe what happened at midnight. The night was electric as the moon hung high, casting eerie shadows across the ancient walls of Jericho. The air was thick with anticipation. Something monumental was about to unfold. Suddenly, a deafening rumble echoed through the streets, reverberating deep within the chest of every villager who dared to listen. It was a sound that could peel paint off the walls, a sound that would change their lives forever. And then, in a breathtaking instant, the very walls that had loomed over them for generations began to tremble, as if the earth itself was shaking with the weight of centuries of secrets. Amidst the chaos, a lone figure, draped in shadow, darted through narrow alleyways, his heart pounding like a war drum. This was no ordinary night for Jericho, it was the witching hour. An ancient prophecy was whispered through the ages, one that spoke of the city's fall at midnight, but no one believed it could really happen. As the clock struck 12, fear rippled through the crowd. They gathered, wide-eyed, refusing to believe the signs. But now the cracks were forming, growing, and that cult of shadowy figures encircling the city had re-emerged. Who were they? What was their connection to Jericho? The villagers gasped as the very foundation of their world began to crumble. Some were paralyzed, while others screamed in terror. The air was filled with confusion. Where could they run? Suddenly, a flash of light burst through the darkness, illuminating the terrified faces of the townspeople. Could this be a sign of hope, or a chilling omen of what was to come? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as the ground beneath them erupted, a chilling whisper drifted through the air. The truth lies beneath. What did that even mean? Panic and curiosity twisted together in every heart. As dust settled, the quiet hung heavy, broken by the muffled cries of those still in shock. Could there be something hidden in the depths of Jericho? Or was this a mere nightmare they'd soon wake from? One thing was certain, they were on the edge of discovering something far beyond their darkest fears. The ground trembled, sending shockwaves through the heart of Jericho. The townspeople, faces frozen in disbelief, stared at the fissures spreading like veins through their beloved walls. Suddenly, the whispering stopped, replaced by urgent shouts and frantic footsteps. People began to push and shove, desperate to escape the encroaching disaster, afraid that if they remained too close, they might be swallowed whole. Among the crowd, the shadowy figure darted forward, unseen in the chaos. His name was Eli, the town's historian, whose heart had always beat with a different rhythm, a one full of stories untold. As the walls continued to crack and groan, he felt an unmistakable pull toward the center of the chaos, as though the very earth beneath him was calling his name. The truth lies beneath, he murmured, recalling the ancient texts he'd studied. What if the legend spoke of something more? What if that prophecy wasn't just a story? Overhead, the moon illuminated the spiraling dust, casting ghostly images against the stones. It felt alive. Eli pushed through the crowd, determination igniting within him. He knew he needed answers, not just for himself, but for everyone. Muffled cries surrounded him, but Eli focused, weaving through throngs of panicked townsfolk. All he could think was, the truth lies beneath. He reached the base of the wall, where the earth appeared displaced as though something sinister was hidden just below the surface. Crouching down, he brushed away the debris, revealing an edge of a stone, glistening oddly in the moonlight. What secret was it hiding? And then he heard it, a low, resonant hum emanating from the depths below, vibrating through the ground like the heartbeat of the city itself. Eli felt drawn toward it, a compulsion stronger than fear. He reached for the stone, fingers trembling as he pried it free. What lay beneath? Just as he stood to survey his find, the earth shuddered violently, sending Eli sprawling to the ground. The villagers screamed, scattering in every direction as the chaos erupted anew, the cracks widening and deepening. But in that moment, Eli spotted figures emerging from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. The same shadowy cult-like figures that had haunted the edges of the city. His breath caught. "Eli!" A voice cried out from behind him. It was Miriam, his childhood friend, her eyes wide with terror. "We need to get out of here." "Wait!" he shouted, pointing at the fissure. "There's something down there." But Miriam grabbed his arm, pulling him away. "It doesn't matter. We have to warn the others." As they turned to escape, the ground beneath them began to collapse further, revealing dark, yawning chasms that seemed to lead to another world. The sound of stone dragging against stone echoed like the cry of a beast awakened from slumber. Eli glanced back over his shoulder, torn by the thought of leaving the mystery behind, but his fear for himself and Miriam surged like a tidal wave. With a final glance, he cried, "The truth is down there. We have to go back." But as he and Miriam retreated into the growing darkness, Eli felt the crushing weight of despair as the ground continued to swallow the secrets of Jericho. What awaited in the deep? Would they uncover the city's legacy, or had they stirred something far more sinister? The choices they made in the coming moments would dictate the fate of everything they held dear. Darkness loomed large, and the true tested strength of their friendship had just begun. Would they have enough time or courage to face what lay beneath? The tremors continued, a dance of chaos beneath Jericho's surface. As the ground shook, Eli and Miriam hurried away from the chasms, their hearts pounding in sync with the panic surrounding them. The voices of friends faded into a cacophony of confusion, leaving only the urgent surge of adrenaline coursing through Eli's veins. "Where do we go?" Miriam's voice quivered, urgency blending with unrestrained fear. Eli's mind raced as he glanced back at the fissures, the moonlit glow illuminating an abyss that beckoned him. "We can't leave, not yet. Eli, this isn't just a story anymore," she cried, her eyes darting wildly. "You can't play hero when everyone is running for their lives." But something deep within Eli refused to back down. He felt the pulse of the town, a connection to its past, and the lure of the stone's whispered promises he couldn't ignore. "I have to understand," he murmured. "I need to uncover what they want." Miriam's grip tightened around his arm. "You're not doing this alone." Determination flared up in her eyes, and Eli wondered if that spark would be enough to carry them into the unknown. Just then, a loud crash sent debris raining from a nearby building, and they ducked instinctively. Around them, the townsfolk scrambled as the very foundation of Jericho threatened to implode. Fear wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. "Over there." Eli pointed to a shadowy corner of the town square where the cult figures gathered, their cloaks billowing like storm clouds. He felt an icy dread crawl over his skin at the sight of their eerie, otherworldly presence. This was their moment to act. "Are you crazy?" Miriam hissed, her hand gripping his tighter. "They're the reason this is happening. We can't confront them." "The truth lies beneath," Eli repeated quietly. "If we're going to save Jericho, we need to discover why they are here." Before Miriam could object, Eli broke into a sprint toward the cloaked figures, heart racing with every step. The figures stood in a circle, huddled over something shimmering in the moonlight, a dark crystal pulsating with a heartbeat of its own. It was entrancing, a beacon of shadows that seemed to absorb the chaos around it. As Eli approached, the figures turned toward him, their faces obscured but eyes gleaming from the abyss. An unsettling silence enveloped them, thick and heavy, as if time had paused to witness their exchange. Eli felt a pull, alive and unnerving, clawing at his mind, urging him to step closer. "Miriam, stay back!" Eli shouted, even as he edged near. The crystal's surface glimmered like liquid stars, fracturing the air with haunting energy. What was it? Why was it here? One of the cloaked figures stepped forward, voice smooth but cold as ice. "You seek the truth, Eli. But beware, some truths are better left buried." He faltered, questioning everything as the ground seemed to tilt beneath his feet. The loud rumble of fissures deepened in the crowd, the vibrations matching the pulse of the crystal. Sweat dripped down Eli's temple, and in that moment of truth, reality blurred. Miriam's shout cut through the haze, snapping him back. "Eli! We need to leave, now." Panic colored her face, but her worry ignited a fierce fire in Eli that he reached for the crystal, daring to touch its surface. It felt warm yet cold, ancient yet alive. The moment his fingers made contact, the world around him erupted into chaos. The ground split wide open, swallowing the crystal and shaking the very soul of Jericho. As darkness yawned before him, Eli was torn between the call of the unknown and the reality of the collapsing town. Would this desperate choice lead to salvation or to a nightmare worse than he could ever imagine? The figures loomed over him, the shadows closing in as the ground roared. Eli's heart raced. The answers he sought were slipping away even as he reached for them, and the true horror of what lay beneath began to unravel in his mind. "What have I done?" he gasped, realizing that the answers might bring darkness unfathomable. What was the true cost of uncovering Jericho's buried secrets? Would they rise from the darkness or be swallowed like the town itself? The darkness swallowed Eli whole, pulling him into a world of shadows deep beneath Jericho. The air, thick with an oppressive weight, pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe. Fragments of his past merged with the present, images of his hometown flickering like the dying embers of a fire. Every heartbeat echoed louder than the tremors above, each one a reminder of the urgency he felt. "Miriam." His voice barely pierced the suffocating dark. Silence wrapped around him like a shroud. Panic bubbled just beneath the surface. Did she make it out? Searching for a way back, Eli stumbled over rocks and debris, the remnants of a world that had been his. Each crunch beneath his foot sparked a memory, a childhood game, laughter shared under the sun, a promise to protect this town. The thought of abandoning that, of leaving Miriam behind, was unbearable. Then, a faint glow caught his eye, emanating from a crack in the walls surrounding him. He pressed forward, desperate for a glimpse of light, a sliver of hope. The pulse of the crystal, still echoing in his mind, seemed to draw him closer. It was as if the shadows were alive, whispering secrets that echoed off the damp, cold stone. As he approached, Eli felt a rush of energy course through him. The light intensified, revealing the unmistakable shapes of the cloaked figures swirling around the chasm. They were chanting, their voices a sinister harmony that reverberated through the air like a chilling breeze. The words were foreign, but their intent was clear as summoning. He leaned closer, curiosity battling against fear. What were they calling forth? And why? Suddenly, he noticed Miriam, her silhouette stark against the glowing light, bound by unseen forces, staring wide-eyed at the cult. "Miriam!" Eli shouted, desperate anguish threading his voice. But her gaze didn't meet his, it was locked on the darkness swirling around the figures. The energy in the air shifted, it crackled, alive and restless. Eli's heart raced, fear knotting in his chest. Then the ground trembled again, a violent quake that sent Eli crashing to the floor. He clawed his way to a stable position, heart hammering, each thump a war cry against the rising tide of panic. "Miriam, fight it!" he screamed, knowing fear could paralyze even the strongest spirit. He grappled with the physical pull of the mysteries that surrounded them, aware that he stood on the precipice of something monumental that could change everything. A roar erupted from the deep, echoing through the tunnels, drowning their voices in a primal fear. Eli's breath hitched as he looked into the eyes of the cloaked figures. They weren't human. No, a terrible realization settled over him like ice. They were vessels for something otherworldly, something that had been waiting for the chance to rise. "Join us, Eli," one figure hissed, its voice slithering into his mind. "You can unearth the truth. You can harness it. Together, we can reshape the world." Chaos rumbled above as if the earth itself was rejecting the invitation, fighting against the dark forces mounting. Eli's instincts screamed to run, but his connection to this cursed town held him in place. Miriam shifted on the ground, tearing her gaze from the figures. "Eli! We can't let them." But her voice was swallowed by the roar, the ground trembling violently again, as if Jericho was alive and in pain. Eli faced the figures, desperation spurring him onward. "What do you want?" he shouted, heart pounding. "Only what we have long been owed," they responded, voices harmonious yet discordant, the weight of their words heavy with implication. "The sacrifice for resurrection." In that moment, Eli understood the grim truth. They weren't merely seeking to uncover the secrets of Jericho, they wished to resurrect something long buried, something dangerous. That he staggered back, thoughts racing. Could he stop them? Save Miriam? Or would he lose everything he loved to this rising darkness? The chasm beneath their feet began to widen further, a yawning mouth of doom. Suddenly, he felt the crystal's pulse inside him, surging. It beckoned him, promising power but at a cost. What choice would he make as he stood on the brink of oblivion? "Eli!" Miriam's voice surged through the chaos, grounding him for a moment. "We have to fight this together." But could they overcome what lay before them, or would they too become part of Jericho's haunting legacy? As a thundering shadow began to emerge from the depths, Eli realized he was at the heart of a battle that was much larger than he had ever imagined. Could they win against the dark tide rising, or was this truly the end of everything? The tremors beneath Eli subsided, momentarily replaced by an eerie stillness that made his skin crawl. He could feel the weight of uncertainty in the air, pressing against him like an unseen force. The cloaked figures swayed, their murmurs now a single, ghastly chant that seemed to vibrate the stones around them. Eli's heart raced as he searched for Miriam, her face a tangle of fear and resolve. "Miriam!" he shouted again, fighting through the chilling fog that clouded their surroundings. Her eyes flickered with recognition but quickly returned to the daunting spectacle before them. The shadows swirled, morphing into shapes that whispered dark promises. Eli felt the power of the crystal pulsing through him, each throb a reminder of the choice threatening to unravel him: embrace the darkness or protect the light that still glimmered in Miriam's eyes. "Get away from her!" he yelled, stepping toward the figures, fueled by desperation. He didn't know what he was willing to do, but he felt a fight boiling inside. A voice, small yet fierce, shouted from the chaos. "Eli! Trust the crystal." He glanced toward Miriam. She was struggling against her bindings, her expression fierce and pleading all at once. "We can use it against them," she urged. As the words settled in his mind, the shadow rose higher, swelling into a silhouette with eyes that glimmered like dying stars. Eli swallowed hard, the weight of his next move heavy in his gut. Could the crystal really be a weapon? Or was it a beacon drawing him closer to the horror awaiting them? The cloaked figures fell silent, their heads tilting in unison. They turned towards Eli, and within their hollow hoods, glimmers of light flashed, dancing like fireflies in a midnight forest. The instigator stepped forward, the fabric of its cloak swirling like smoke. "Come, Eli!" it beckoned, stretching a ghastly, elongated hand. "Together we shall awaken what was lost. Join us, and your deepest desires can be fulfilled." Beads of sweat formed on Eli's brow. Did he yearn for power, or was it the promise of saving Miriam that drew him closer? He wrestled with the truth. He had always been one to shield his loved ones, to fight against the odds. But in this moment, every instinct warned him to flee, to abandon the shadows that yearned for him. Miriam's voice sliced through his inner turmoil. "Eli, their words are poison. Remember what we used to fight for. Our dreams, our home, our freedom." As if summoned by her plea, the crystal flared brightly within him, emitting a sharp light that illuminated the cavern walls. Eli's gaze turned from the figures to the shadows writhing in the chasm. They twisted and turned, trying to avoid the light, as if it was a natural enemy. "Together!" he shouted, locking eyes with Miriam, who struggled against her restraints. With a powerful exhale, Eli raised his hands, channeling the crystal's energy, harnessing it, making it roar like a beast awakened. The chanting figures recoiled, their faces twisted in rage. "Fool!" one screeched. "That power belongs to us." Eli could feel the ground shift beneath him as the darkness surged, now truly alive. The figures charged, a chaotic blend of limbs and shadows racing toward him and Miriam. His pulse quickened, urgency tearing through him. "Hold on!" he shouted to Miriam, focusing all his will on the light. It pulsed, radiating warmth and hope, illuminating their surroundings, forcing shadows back. As the figures lunged, Eli braced for impact, certain that whatever came next could break him. But in that final moment of clarity, he realized the light was a choice, a refusal to succumb to the dark. "Now!" he yelled, pushing the energy outward. A blinding white flash erupted as the shadows collided with the brilliant force. Eli felt the overwhelming pressure of his surroundings shift, pulling everything into a wild vortex. His vision blurred, and amid the chaos, he could see Miriam's eyes, fear and belief intertwining. Just before the world became engulfed in light, he heard her scream, "Fight it, Eli. You're stronger than this." And in that instant, everything shattered. Eli awoke, gasping, but he was no longer in the chasm. A new world lay before him, vibrant and pulsating, but was it reality or another illusion? The chill of the shadows still echoed in his bones as he searched for Miriam. Had he saved her or trapped them both in a new nightmare? With every heartbeat, he felt the night grow darker. The only question that remained was, what had he unleashed when he chose the light? Eli's lungs burned as he staggered to his feet. The ground beneath him felt solid yet unfamiliar, a green meadow alive with luminescent flowers and towering trees that twisted like haunted ghosts under a darkening sky. He blinked, trying to anchor himself. "Miriam!" he called out, the name tearing from his throat like a desperate prayer. The bright colors around him felt wrong. They vibrated with a pulse that mirrored the fear thrumming in his veins. This place could just as easily hold dark secrets as it did beauty. With each hurried step, the sensation of shadows clung to him, whispering soft cautions that unsettled his resolve. He forced his mind to focus. What had happened? In the waning light, flashes of the cavern danced behind his eyes, the swirling chaos, the cloaked figures, the blinding crystal light. The memory sent a shiver cascading down his spine. Had he truly escaped, or was this an elaborate trap woven from the very fabric of fear? A rustle interrupted his thoughts. Eli spun, adrenaline surging anew, but it was only a small creature, a fox with shimmering fur and glowing eyes. It stared at him, its gaze intelligent and piercing. Eli crouched slowly, extending a tentative hand. "Have you seen a girl? About my age, brown hair she was." His words faltered, swallowed by the enormity of his loss. The fox remained silent, but to his surprise, it turned and began to walk deeper into the woods. Eli hesitated only for a moment before following. Each awkward step scratched at his hope. The haunting memories of Miriam's pleading eyes crept back, urging him onward. The trees began to close in around him. Tendrils of darkness slithered at the edges of his vision, creeping like phantom hands. He could feel something watching, waiting. The fear returned, a gnawing doubt in his heart that this path, whatever it led to, might not bring him closer to her at all. "Where are you taking me?" Eli whispered, more to himself than the fox. But it only continued its steady pace, leading him to a clearing where a shimmering pool lay reflected in the faint light. Eli approached, cautiously peering into the shimmering surface. His breath caught. The water rippled, shifting to reveal images swirling beneath. He saw flashes of memories, moments shared with Miriam, her laughter intertwining with voices from the shadows. Then the image morphed. Eli recoiled as the cloaked figures returned, their shadows stretching across the shimmering surface. "You cannot escape what is within," a voice echoed from the depths, low and sinister. "The light you summon binds you to us forever." Panic surged through him. "No!" he shouted, fiercely defiant. "I will fight." The fox licked the surface of the water, and the reflection rippled again. This time, he saw Miriam bound still, a ghost of the girl he knew, trapped in another world filled with darkness and despair. Eli's heart clenched. "I will not abandon you." He cried out, but the image distorted further, leaving him with the weight of despair and sorrow. Determined, he turned back to the fox. "Tell me how to save her." Desperation threatened to crack him, the weight of his own ineptitude pressing down like a thick cloak of shadows. The fox sat tall and proud, its gaze luminous. "You must confront the darkness, Eli. Only by facing your own fears can you reclaim the light." His heart raced as the clarity of its words sank in. "But how? I barely survived the last confrontation." It tilted its head, and the world around him shifted again. The meadow fractured like glass, splintering away to reveal fragments of the cavern, a path leading back into the dark. "The choice is yours," it murmured cryptically before fading into the shadows. Eli felt the heat of determination raging within him, fighting the creeping dread. He would have to return, face whatever horror awaited him, not just for himself, but for Miriam. The shadows pulled at him, a dark chorus urging him to turn back, yet something brighter flickered within him, igniting the memory of Miriam's unwavering hope. He closed his eyes, the chants of the cloaked figures echoing in his mind. "I'm coming for you," he vowed. As he stepped back into the darkness, a question loomed on his lips: would he have the strength needed now to break the cycle, or would he be consumed by it? And as the darkness enveloped him, he couldn't shake a chilling realization: this wasn't just about saving Miriam, it was about confronting the darkest parts of himself. Eli's heart pounded in his chest as the shadows coiled around him, thick and suffocating. Familiar whispers clawed at his ears, dredging memories he wished to forget. The cavern and its chilling secrets loomed in his mind. He couldn't turn back now, not when Miriam was still trapped somewhere in that darkness. With each step, he felt the air grow colder, heavier, as if the weight of despair was pushing him backward. But he pressed on, fueled by fear and a flicker of hope buried deep within. The path twisted like a snake, leading him back into the heart of the nightmare. Every rustle in the darkness made him jump, scanning for the cloaked figures. Their presence was a haunting shadow, a weight on his shoulders that pressed him further into the depths of his doubt. "Face your fears," the fox had said. What did that even mean? Suddenly, a light flickered ahead. Eli's breath hitched as he approached. It was faint but beckoning, a radiant glow spilling from a doorway in the rock. Tentatively, he reached out to touch the surface. As he stepped through, a cacophony of voices erupted around him. The cloaked figures stood waiting, their ominous forms moving like fluid shadows. "Welcome back, Eli," one intoned, voice echoing like a distant thunderclap. "We've missed you." "Where is she?" Eli demanded, his voice trembling with anger and fear. "What have you done to Miriam?" They chuckled, a sound that chilled his bones. "She's closer than you think. But first, you must embrace what you fear most." "What does that even mean?" He shot back. "Your deepest fear," they whispered in unison, their eyes glowing like dim stars. "Your own weakness. The light you seek cannot shine until you acknowledge the darkness within." Eli felt the world tilt. He clenched his fists, teeth grinding. The last thing he wanted was to delve into his own insecurities. The memory of that day when he couldn't save her washed over him, her terrified scream, the helplessness that twisted in his gut. "No!" he shouted, shaking his head as if he could physically dislodge the thoughts. "I want to let you control me." "Ah, but you already are," their voices entwined, slipping inside his mind. "You never wanted to face this. You run, Eli. You hide behind your bravado," but inside anguish clawed at him, but he fought against it. "You're wrong," he yelled, voice echoing through the chamber. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of anything." A piercing silence followed, and the shadows condensed around him, forming into a swirling vortex that tugged at his very being. "Then prove it," they challenged, their eyes flaring bright. "Confront the wound that festers in your heart." Eli flung himself backward, but it was too late. The shadows lunged forward, wrapping around him like a web of treachery. He felt fear grip him, lost in the memories of every time he had failed. The shadows whispered sweetly, reminding him of how easy it was to give in, to let his fear consume him. He gasped, twisting free of their hold just as a figure emerged from the darkness, a reflection of himself, a younger version, trembling and lost. "You couldn't save her. You've always been weak," it sneered, and Eli felt the accusations cut deep. "No," he shouted back, voice an anguished roar. "I am not weak. Not anymore." That fierce proclamation lit something within him. It ignited a spark, brightening the shadows that encircled him. He plunged into the memories, accepting the pain, summoning every image of despair before tossing them aside with raw determination. Suddenly, the shadows began to dissipate, unraveling like a frayed thread. The cloaked figures shrieked in rage, their forms twisting as light surged around Eli, illuminating the cavern. "Keep going." An echoing voice urged from the depths of his heart, stirring memories of the brightest smiles and unwavering belief that Miriam had in him. In that moment, he knew he was free, but as the light enveloped him, Eli understood the true challenge was still ahead. Where was Miriam? What awaited him beyond this darkness? Would he find her, or was this only the beginning of a far darker truth? As the last vestiges of shadows faded, he caught a chilling glimpse of movement on the periphery, a shape lurking, waiting, ready to lead him deeper into the unknown. And Eli took a step forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead, not knowing if he was truly prepared for the truth that awaited him. Eli's pulse raced as he pushed deeper into the cavern, the remnants of the cloaked figures fading behind him like smoke. Clarity washed over him, but it did little to ease his fear. The light surrounding him flickered, dimming just as quickly as it brightened. The cavern's south walls seemed to close in, and shadows danced at the edges of his vision, taunting him. His thoughts swirled like a storm, echoing the haunting words of those cloaked beings. "Embrace your fear." He had done just that, but now he felt naked, exposed in a world that was eager to swallow him whole. With a deep breath, he steadied himself, forcing each footstep further into the darkened path. Suddenly, he stumbled across a familiar sight, a fragment of bright fabric, tattered and stained, caught on a jagged rock. His heart dropped. Miriam's scarf. In an instant, it had been transformed from a piece of fabric into a lifeline. A sliver of hope, fragile yet weighty, surged in him. She had been here. She had touched this very place. "Eli." The call was barely a whisper, floating from deep within the shadows. He froze, his breath hitching. "Eli." The voice was unmistakably hers. "Miriam." He shouted, his voice reverberating through the cold cavern. There was a moment of silence that stretched like an eternity, and he felt hope slip through his fingers. "Find me, please." Her voice was a desperate echo, tinged with fear and urgency. He followed the sound, heart thumping painfully against his ribcage as he raced down a new corridor, each echoing step urging him forward. It twisted and curled like an enraged serpent, its dark mouth gaping wider, swallowing the light from his torch. Eli could feel the moist stone walls pressing against him, almost alive, pulsing with malevolence. "Eli." Came her voice again, clearer this time. He crashed through an opening, and the sight that met him shattered his heart. Miriam sat in the center of the chamber, bound by chains made of shadow, flickering like spoiled cloth. The chains seemed to siphon her life force, draining color from her skin, leaving her pallid and fragile. "Miriam!" he cried, rushing forward, but a wall of darkness flared to life between them, blocking his path. A low, dark laugh erupted, grating against the silence. The cloaked figures rematerialized, their presence pulsing like a twisted heartbeat. "You thought truly facing your fears would grant you freedom? No, Eli, this is only the beginning. Let her go." He shouted angrily, his fists clenched tight. "She is a reflection of your own weakness," they hissed. "You are responsible for her fate. Can you bear that burden?" Eli felt a wave of nausea wash over him. The chains tethering Miriam felt like a trap around his own heart. "No. I did everything I could." His voice wavered, yet there was strength in his denial. I want to let you twist the truth. Truth? The figures sneered. There lies the tragedy, Eli. You are lost in your guilt. This darkness, it is your creation. The words landed like stones, hammering down on him. He staggered back, struggling to maintain control. To face the truth, wasn't he that what he had done? It can't be true. As the shadows encroached upon him, wrapping their tendrils around his mind, Eli heard Miriam's voice again, softer but clearer. Fight, Eli. You've come this far. Don't give in. Something inside him ignited. Gathering the shards of his resolve, he inhaled deeply, summoning the light he felt earlier. I will not give up on you, Miriam. A fierce brightness poured from his heart, pushing against the dark. A warmth enveloped him, growing in intensity until it coursed like a flood, spilling forth from his very core, but the cloaked figures hissed in outrage, their forms fading back, shadows swallowing their screams. Yet in that moment, the chains binding Miriam began to tremble, cracking under the heat radiating from Eli's spirit. Go. Break free. He urged, but he could feel his energy depleting. And just as hope ignited once more, the air turned cold. Something worse lurked beneath the surface, a presence darker than before. Let us see what you're truly made of. Eli, a new voice sneered from the shadows, promising despair and chaos. The ground quaked, and Eli felt the walls closing in again, as if the cavern itself fought against him. With every ounce of will, Eli planted his feet, ready to confront whatever horror lay ahead. Miriam's life hung in the balance. But as the shadows thickened, he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold on. What was waiting to be unleashed, and would he be able to save her before it strangled him whole? Eli could feel the tremors in his bones as the new voice slithered from the shadows, dark and derisive. What are you going to do now, hero? You fought valiantly, but that means nothing against the true darkness. He swallowed hard, trying to quell the rising tide of fear. The chains around Miriam tightened, and he noticed the shadows wrap around her throat like a noose, making her gasp and choke. Panic surged in him, sharp and stinging. Be strong, Miriam. He shouted, willing his voice to sound steadier than it felt. I'm not losing you. The air in the chamber thickened, pressing down on him like an unbearable weight. With each passing second, the shadows danced closer, hungry and insatiable. Eli felt it, a storm brewing inside him, fed by fear and desperation. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but there was no turning back now that as he focused on Miriam, holding her image in his mind, a strange warmth pulsed from his chest. It defied the chilling darkness that encircled them. Eli reached deep within himself, searching for the flickering remnants of hope. I am stronger than you. He roared defiantly, and in that act of rebellion, he felt the light within him swell, pushing back against the shadows suffocating the air, but then came another low, mocking laughter, reverberating through the cavern. What a remarkable belief you have in your own power. But do you even know what fuels it? You're nothing without your guilt. And we are its manifestation. With that, the shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of darkness thirsty for his despair. Eli braced himself as they crashed against his body. It felt like icy fingers digging into his skin, pulling him down into a whirlpool of memories and regret. Visions washed over him, failed moments, lost time, Miriam's smile dimming. Eli. Her voice sounded muffled and distant now, swallowed by the encroaching void. He could hardly see her, her form flickering like a candle in a storm. No. He screamed, fighting against the suffocating darkness. Rage and determination sparked within him, igniting the last remnants of his resolve. Summoning every ounce of willpower, he reached for the light again, the warmth that coursed through him like a river. You will not take her. He shouted, his voice ringing like a bell in the chaos. The light burst forth from within, a blinding wave that splintered through the shadows. The chains around Miriam cracked, shattering like glass, sending shards of darkness spiraling away. Miriam. He called out, but she remained enveloped in a fading shroud. Stay with me. Then, just as the overwhelming light began to flicker, he saw a glimmer of gold radiate from her heart. It was faint, beating like a drum. Eli felt the connection surge, tethering them through an invisible thread. Hold on. The cloaked figures shrieked, their agonized cries echoing against the stone walls as they were pushed back by the brilliance. They staggered, their dark forms reeling as they struggled to regain their control. Foolish boy. You think light can defeat us? One of them spat, voice dripping with venom. No, Eli shot back, but I'll keep fighting. As the shadows danced dangerously close again, Eli realized this wasn't just about confronting the darkness surrounding him, it was about embracing the truth buried beneath the fear. He was afraid of failing Miriam, of losing her completely. But if he could face that fear and harness it, maybe he could turn the tide. With that awareness, the light expanded, flooding the cavern and illuminating every crevice. He felt Miriam's hand brush against his, warmth surged through him, fueling his instincts. Together, he whispered, reaching into the shadows threatening to swallow them whole. We can do this. I won't let you down. But the ominous voice returned, now tinged with impatience. Ah, but don't you see? There's more to this game than just you two playing the heroes. The true challenge is just beginning. As the light flickered, and shadows writhed forward, Eli braced himself for the next storm about to hit. He couldn't falter now. The truth lingered at the edge, tantalizing and terrifying. What awaited them in the depths of darkness, and could Eli truly harness the light before it was snuffed out forever? Eli felt the crashing wave of darkness bear down on him, but something shifted in the air. The brightness within him surged, and he could feel Miriam's warmth intertwining with his own. They were connected, tied together by the strength of their shared memories and unyielding hope. Together, he whispered, and the words echoed through the chamber, becoming a rallying cry against the approaching shadows. Together. We won't let them win. With newfound determination, he squeezed Miriam's hand firmly. The glow from their hearts pulsed rhythmically, igniting the air around them. As the shadows lunged, Eli concentrated, imagining every flickering light they had ever shared, moments of laughter, of tears, of triumph. Each vivid memory became fuel, igniting the flame of resilience deep within him. Bright beams erupted from their joined hands, exploding outward and illuminating the darkness. The cavern shook violently, the shadows twisting and writhing away as if burned by the radiant force. No. This can't be happening. The cloaked figures screeched, their horrified faces twisting in panic as they recoiled from the light. Eli felt an exultant rush. This is our truth. He shouted, unleashing every ounce of fear, guilt, and pain, but also every trace of love and hope he held for Miriam and his home. The power surged, radiating outwards until the cavern itself began to dissolve. You think you can resist? The lead figure rasped, but Eli's resolve only strengthened. It's not just about resisting. It's about embracing what makes us whole. With one last, intense flash, the light enveloped them completely, and Eli heard the anguished cries of the figures dissolve into the ether. He felt a jolt, as if everything shattered and then reformulated. When the light subsided, they stood not in the claustrophobic cavern but in the heart of Jericho itself, the familiar silhouettes of homes and trees stretching out before them like a passionate tapestry filled with life. Miriam! Eli gasped, racing forward to pull her into his arms. They stumbled together, breathless, hearts colliding as the echoes of conflict faded behind them. You're safe, you're really here. Her eyes sparkled with relief and unwavering fondness, and her fingers brushed against his cheek. We did it, Eli. We faced the darkness and overcame it. But the shadows of their past still lingered, a subtle reminder that the battle had been won, yet scars remained. They stood at the edge of town as the sun began to rise, spilling golden hues across the landscape. Eli felt warmth flooding back into his chest. Jericho feels different now, he murmured, glancing at the cracked but standing walls. It's alive, free. Miriam nodded, her gaze scanning the town. We have work to do. The people of Jericho need to know what happened, to understand the truth that lies beneath. As the first light pierced through the remnants of chaos, Eli's burden felt lighter. Together, we'll tell them. We'll reclaim our history and ensure what happened here never fades into the shadows again. They walked side by side, hand in hand, threading their way through the familiar streets. The townsfolk began to emerge slowly, their faces painted with a spectrum of terror and confusion. But with Eli and Miriam leading, they felt hope begin to flicker anew. Each step they took echoed the promise that the darkness would no longer define them. Eli and Miriam paused at the town's center, where fingers of light stretched across the earth. The cracks in the walls stood as a testament to their trials, but the sun's rays glimmered like a reminder of their strengths. We need to unite, Eli addressed the crowd, his voice firm. We will not let fear rule us anymore. The truth lies beneath, but it is ours to share, ours to learn from. Hope glimmered in the eyes of the villagers as they began to gather around. Eli turned to Miriam, gratitude swelling in his heart. Thank you for standing by my side, for reminding me what truly matters. Always, she replied, her smile igniting a warmth that soothed the remnants of their fears. As the sun rose fully above Jericho, bathing the town in light and warmth, Eli felt a final shift within himself. He was free from the chains of his past failures. They had faced the darkness, embraced their truth, and together they would lead their town toward a brighter future. Eli grasped Miriam's hand tighter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the weight of the past lifting, they stepped forward into their future together. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that red button immediately, smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this epic conclusion, and you know what? Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how it all ends. This is the moment to take action. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word and connect with your friends about this intense journey.